Really? What's I'm happy to hear about interesting things to make with rebar. Um, what he did, I mean, but he was making about anything with rebar and just testing its hardness. And what I have to wonder is there certain types of rebar I should look for if I want the harder stuff that I can, you know, turn into blacksmith knives because they're a nice, you know, there are things that people like to buy off of a crafts table and can hold an edge for a little while longer than say um, my railroad spikes, um, which are absolutely true novelties. They're not really good from cutting anything. Um, so, but I don't need this thing to be hard. It doesn't feel like it's moving in a way that indicates that it's hard. You might find out when I do some testing with that piece I just cut off that indeed it is hardenable. Um, I'll take it to a grinder and just see what it sparks like. If it makes pretty fireworks, then maybe it is hardenable. But that's not what I bought it for. I bought it to stand the test of time, and rebar is known for doing that. And I wanted a long enough piece that I could make this hang, the top of the crook stand up at least 5 feet tall, and then give it a nice broad stance at the bottom in the spikes, with long enough spikes that it doesn't tip over with a good wind. I don't get up to Indiana very often, which is where my mother's grave is, and I don't. I know that all of my family has basically moved. I should say, my siblings have moved away from Indiana, so I don't know how often they're able to get over there to see how things are going. Of course, her sister and my cousins would probably come over and make sure everything's good. But it's always best to just plan. All you're seeing me do is work back a little bit further and further to push in the telltale ridges of rebar. When it's done, it'll look more like a branch or something. And then I got to decide which way I want to go. A lot of the type of work I like to do is more naturalistic, but you can't put pretty twists in on round stock or round dish stock. So there's that. So I got to think about how I want it to look in the end. But at the beginning, I know what I'm going to want. So that's what I'm aiming for now. I'm very tempted to go ahead and keep it round, have that scroll, and then create more like a filigree with leaves on the end that I weld to it, just coiling around like ivy. And then there's the thought that runs through my head. Not that I really consider it too much, but where she's at is a cemetery near a naval base. And as such, you know, a lot of folks in the area are just locals, but you don't know who's going to filter through the naval base. And I trust most military people almost implicitly. But that doesn't mean everybody is a good guy. And if I make something too pretty, will it get stolen? Or will it get stolen because it is good scrap? I don't know. So then the other part of me says, just make something that is kind of simple. But, you know, it's made by me. And put that out there and see what happens. Yeah. I hate to think that way, though. And the video's gone again. I'm staring at a camera that's not even doing its job. I am not at all happy with GoPro. Let's see if maybe... That means you're not hearing it anymore either, probably. Yeah, most likely not. It might be. But actually what I'm seeing is the... you can't hear me probably. Oh, you can still hear me. Okay. Interesting. Interesting that you can hear me. Which audio is it using? Ah, that would explain why you can hear me. It's not using the audio I was expecting it to. It's been using the max audio. Which, you know, that's a real waste of a good Rhodes mic. But fortunate, because obviously if the camera's not going to work, the mics are not going to do any damn good either. I have the mic feeding in through the camera, simply that so that if I want to record on the camera, I could actually hit a record button and you know, be able to exercise that. No, I didn't realize that's who this was. Hi, Greg. That is awesome. Now, if I could only get the tech to behave.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good.
I am having a hell of a time with technology today.
Lots of cool GoPro.
Yeah, if it would work.
It's not wanting to connect.
It's not wanting to. It wants to. It connects and then it goes offline. And my buddy Greg is trying to help me know when things are working and when things aren't. Turns out that live streaming is harder than anybody realizes. A lot of technological challenges.
What's the white box?
That's a mic receiver that I'm feeding into the camera, and then this is an HDMI cable that I'm feeding over to an HDMI transcoder, specifically for the use with cameras. That then you just feed into your USB port, and it should be just kind of like magic. And instead of being kind of like magic, it's being kind of like poo-poo. And you're right, I knew I could select the audio. It's just, I thought I already had it selected. All right, let's keep it unplugged just for a minute longer, and then try plugging it in. See, it lights, and it's supposed to stay lit. Honestly, I think that the problem that I've been having the whole time has to do with the GoPro media kit. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember now. But it's the GoPro itself. What you're seeing is more than just the GoPro. I'll show you. take it all out since nobody can see what I'm doing anyway. So disappointing.
Oh, okay.
See, this is a whole kit, right? And currently I have a battery in there, so there's that. It's all booted up now.
So that's just getting back.
Yeah. So that I can then get that. And it claims it's connected. Yeah, there it is again. Of course, now it's not showing up in the. Oh wait a minute, I'm looking at the actual stream, so I can't tell if it's.
Oh yeah.
But see, now it's lit.
Oh, well, there goes the GoPro.
Yeah, that's me. That's it finally coming online. It takes about 10 seconds. There's about a 10-second delay for the RTMP site that I use. And then what we'll see here, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, we see all the. I want to get rid of all the visual artifacts of a camera. And now that's gone. Step on in. I'll show you what's going on. This is my friend, my neighbor's eldest son, Nail.
Hello.
And what I've got here is I've got the whole, I've got different stages. I'm going to just go through the stages in this thing. I've got a starting soon stage, which I set up before I turn on my mics and I turn on the camera and I get everything set up. And then, I just have that going for like 15 minutes ahead of the stream. And then I switch over to the presentation stage. And then if I need to step away, emergency, wife needs me or whatever, I can go into Be Right Back stage, which I would be doing, except the only problem with this that I've seen is if I go into Be Right Back stage, I now can't see my screen to see if it's working. So normally I would go into Be Right Back stage while I'm working out technical difficulties, but I have no way to tell if I'm being successful in solving my technical difficulties. So let's go here, Advanced Audio Properties. No, that's not what I want. Do I have to, properties, device, default, there we go. Cam link. All right, Greg, you should be, hit save. You should now be hearing me much differently. I'm probably too loud. Let me just dial it back just a hair. There we go. Now I'm not into the yellows anymore. I'm going to go ahead and eke into the yellows. There we go. And hopefully it's just a nicer sound than coming off of my MacBook, especially as I walk around the whole place and you still get a consistent sound. So let me actually put the presentation stage back on. We still have a white light on the cam link. That's a good sign. All right, we're going to try this again. Honestly, I think that there's just something not quite right with the media mod. That's what they call it, the media mod that the GoPro sits in. Yeah, right? A much better mic. And you can, it's just a very nice mic. all things. All right, so here we go. Back to it. I got some bright coals. You won't be able to see it being bright yet, but it will be. I'm going to tilt this just a hair so I can. And what we're seeing on the screen right now, obviously you can now see the delay with me walking over and adjusting the camera, but this will get nice and bright.
Are you doing a whole rebar?
Oh, you need to step over here, otherwise you're going to be just standing inside of the camera. But no, I'm only going to work the end of the rebar. The whole rebar in the long run will be forged, and I have to decide how I'm going to do it. More than likely what I'll end up doing is opening this panel up, adjusting this way a little bit, and therefore being able to feed the rebar through.
To work the nose up.
Right. How you doing? Because yeah, I mean, I don't want it to be left with rebar marks. You know, I don't want it to be obviously rebar when I'm done. And I'm still thinking through what I'm going to have it look like. The only thing I know for sure is I'm starting it off with a what's known as a Fishtail Scroll. There we go. A Fishtail Scroll is one where you create a taper at the end, right, from what it was, and that tapering process, because I'm only going to taper in one direction, starts to spread from you know, a round bar. It spreads out at the end into a fishtail.
Oh.
Okay, so as it fishtails, you know, you've got that look, and then as you scroll it, it gives this really pleasing, natural kind of look to it.
Oh.
And that'll be, so what I'm making is a shepherd's hook. And so a shepherd's hook goes up, over, down, and around, right, to become the hook. And that fishtail will be the scroll going out to the outside. A shepherd's hook. You mean the fishtail scroll or the shepherd's hook? What?
The whole hook.
The whole hook is a shepherd's hook is used for hanging plants. You've seen them. We have you know, real lightweight ones out there for hanging small plants on, or bird feeders. You've seen the bird feeder hangers. Same thing. That's a shepherd's hook.
Okay.
But this one is going to be for going next to my mother's headstone. So,
Thank you.
yeah. But the first thing, like I said, I was doing, you can see it's actually gotten hot enough to do it. I'll go over your head.
You want me to hold it?
Nope. As I'm just taking and getting rid of the obvious rebar look, and instead giving it more of a natural viney look. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to reshape it yet. Just get it cleaned up, and then and I think I'm going to do one more inch of that before I'm going to the next phase, which is to start creating the spread that becomes the fishtail. So, back over your head. You might want to come over and stand over on this side so you can actually see the fire and stuff. My hammer. Could you grab some of that for me, please? And remember, all metal you see is hot, so don't be going grabbing metal that doesn't, yeah, that you don't know what it is. Like, perfect. Thank you. It's a small smithy, but we can do a lot in a small place. What's Greg saying? So far we haven't lost a video. That's a good thing. Turn it back so he can actually see the fire.
How many people are on your screen?
Probably just Greg. And he's actually doing me a favor and watching all three of my screens.
Oh, on Facebook.
YouTube and Facebook. Although I don't know if currently I'm actually active on all of them at the moment. Yeah, I love the So I've never seen anybody do it quite like this, where you've got the chat screen and the chat up on there. And I could actually cause myself some trouble down the road with this if I get some bad actors on here putting crap into the chat stream. But, you know, so far I've been real lucky. I don't have that problem. But I like being able to have the multiple camera view. You know, it's very nice to be able to leverage it like this.
Want me to keep spinning it?
Oh, if you would, that'd be awesome. Now I have to get you something. He who volunteers to be the bellows monkey gets to be the
Ah, yes.
What in the world did you put into the stream? I can't tell what that symbol is. This was my first attempt at it. And you can see I've got a fishtail going on, but I did it wrong. That's not a taper. That's a set down. And I went back and watched a couple of blacksmiths on how they do fishtail scrolls and discovered the set down instead of a taper. A taper would just go would go like that, right? Whereas that's a set down where you've actually mushed the material all to one side. I'll end up making this into a hook. It'll work out as a hook of some sort. And then while I'm shaping this on the grinder, I'll find out if it's hardenable metal or not. Because if it's hardenable metal, then I'll know that I can buy more of this rebar, which was very cheap. This stuff's far more expensive, this metal, and have something I can turn into, you know, blacksmith blades, for example. Because blacksmith blade, you know, has that style that people will like to buy off of a craft table, you know, craft fair table.
Yeah.
I need to have a full-time bellows monkey. Look at that. All right, you don't go when there's nothing in the fire. Dummy. And you notice it actually did the work for me on the bottom of it too. Not quite as much as on the hammer side. And that's because, as I've said to you, the anvil pushes back. It's as much an important tool as the hammer is.
Right.
All right, we're getting to the point where I can't do it because can't move the metal. And you know, one of the ways I can tell is the bar actually becomes springy. And when it becomes springy, it starts bouncing and rattling in your hand.
Oh.
Instead of being malleable, the bar just decides, now we're just going to start jumping here. Get it nice and deep in here so I can get some more of that worked. Good, good, good. Those really big pieces of charcoal. There we go. Big pieces are not bad, but they don't create the surface area necessary to get hot, really hot. Pasta. All right, let's see if it actually thinks it's working in. Oh yeah, we're back on YouTube, it looks like. It's funny because I have the ability in my tool, OBS Studio, to look at the chat stream, and then I see myself live actually participating with the chat stream. But something's happening when I do. It's just not, it's not behaving the way I thought it should. So, oh, I see how it does it there. It actually puts it, the latest ones up top. That's neat. Got a good fire going on now. All right, go ahead and stop. Let's take a look at the color.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we can move some metal with that. Hold on. My cam link comes on, and it did. And now I got to get the GoPro silliness off my screen again. And you were right, Mr. Greg. I found the power saving feature and turned that bugger off. Thank you for getting in there and figuring that out. And let's see, which audio is it currently using? Because obviously the other audio disappeared. Ah, it's using the cam link. Which means I can do this now. This will be fun. Wonder, I know I can go far from it. Da 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 da. Hi there.
Hello.
Okay. Let's take a look.
Good.
Ah, yeah. All right, let's see if I can do this the right way this time. And the last time I didn't even take off the rebar stuff, so. All right, first, a very sharp taper. And I'm trying to not hit my own anvil, because hitting your anvil is a bad thing, you know? We got a nice taper.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can show the camera. Camera, you can see that it has an angle at the end now.
Yep, it's showing it.
Cool. All right, make those pixies angry. I found out a couple of weeks ago that I can get it hot enough to burn the metal.
Really?
Yeah.
Just melt it?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Now, you kind of want to get them, if you want to do something called forge welding, which is where you stick two pieces of metal together permanently, right? Welding. Forge welding is doing it in your forge without a welder, okay? If you want to do that, you have to get your temperature up to almost that temperature anyway, so that the metal becomes slippery. That means that it's kind of liquid at the surface, and they can then bond. So that's a necessary thing, and I've been wanting to make sure I could do that because there are times where I'm going to want to forge weld.
Yeah, and you can do that on this one, right?
I can. And I knew I could do it with coal because I always watch my other blacksmith folks blacksmithing with either propane or coal. Nobody uses charcoal. Mainly because charcoal, you go through more charcoal to get to the temperatures you want than you do with coal. But you see how it's starting to spread a little bit there?
A lot, yeah.
Now watch what will happen when I do it like this. And we're going to dress the end a little bit. I want it to be sort of round, but I don't want it to be And then you remember saw the hammer marks, right? And I said that at this temperature you can
Oh yeah.
push those hammer marks in. And there you go. See? Now we've got a fishtail. Now, I think I'm going to want that to be bigger to get what I want out of this. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pull it back some and spread it some more.
So it's a little bigger.
Yeah. But this is getting there. And I am going to want it thinner at the end, which means spreading it some more is also going to be beneficial in that. Now, remember when I said all metal is hot? Now clearly, I'm holding it right here. Here is warm. Here is cold. Go ahead. Right here where my hand is, cold. Any closer to the end of that, and you could possibly burn yourself. All metal is hot. You can't tell looking at it. We've got about 30 more minutes, and then I wrap up for the day. So we might put a little more charcoal on there, but we're not going to need to put a lot more on there.
Should I put the little stuff?
Yes. Grab some little stuff, throw it over on this end, because you can see there's plenty of big stuff on the far end. And it doesn't have to be tiny stuff, but yeah. Because too tiny and it just becomes coal dust that becomes angry pixies. Yep, that'll do. That's it.
Alright.
Then you'll see it'll automatically become angry pixies because coal dust is part of that mix. Don't put your eye out. Check out my new power solution.
Oh yeah, I saw that. What?
That can do both DC, right, just a big old power bank, but it also can do AC. I'm charging my Mac off of it.
Oh.
Now, I don't have much charge left on the Mac, so we might be stopping even earlier than the top of the hour because apparently it doesn't like this power supply. I will be back. Go ahead and let it sit there without cranking it, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
You know, if you want to make faces at the cameras, you're welcome to do that. Let's see when you can actually hear me again. Ran all the way to the house. I'm sure you didn't hear me all the way to the house.
No. Oh, we can't hear you now. We heard you from back there. Or at least the camera was there.
That's cool. So what I'm learning is that the third-party power brick is not good enough to keep the Mac live. Let's try the actual Mac power brick.
Yeah.
Now it says it's charging. Let's see if it does a better job. Yeah, and then this one's a couple years old now. And it still has the touch bar.
Yeah, it looks good.
All right, let's take a look at the color. Yeah, we're good enough. So we'll go ahead and pull that back a little bit. You see how the taper becomes more and more pronounced going all the way down. And now and we're at the end of our heat. I mean, the fact is, you could continue to move metal that way, but you have a chance of introducing fractures, microscopic fractures, when you work at a non-red color. So, best to not work it except for surface work when you're working the metal at black. Yeah, I ran all the way to the house and I was wondering when it would lose the mic. It actually has a very far travel with that mic. I knew it did, but I just didn't know how far out. I'm gonna start, while that's getting hot, I'm gonna just start walking over to the chickens and you can tell me when it drops off.
Okay.
So, just passing the actual receiver now, and now about 10 yards. About 20 yards. Now, maybe 3 yards. Now, about. Are you okay, big guy? Can you still hear me? Wow. So I can do a whole walk-on intro with it pointing at the birds if I want to. That's fun.
That's awesome.
All right, let's take a look at it. Yeah, let's get a little warmer. We've got plenty of air going through there, that's good.
Yeah.
But I got to keep it down where it is actually hot. There we go. So, the fire you're seeing is actually the gases off of the charcoal firing off. Okay? So, I don't know if, I mean, you've seen it yourself. When you light a candle, it's not burning the wax, it's burning the oil turned gaseous. So the heat you're applying, you can see immediately the candle becomes liquid. The liquid gets drawn up into the wick, which as it nears the fire turns to gas, which the fire feeds off of. Okay? But down below, we're actually throwing oxygen into the mix at a faster rate than you could if it were just from the heat on the top of the fire. And as a result, you end up with a hotter fire. And the way you can tell it's hotter, obviously, is its color. Let me pull these, pull these closer to us. There's the back hole I don't even think I have open.
No, it doesn't look like it.
So. There we go. And the brighter orange to yellow, you can even get to white sometimes.
Wow.
But yellow is typically all you need to do things like forge welding. And for the longest time, blacksmithing was done with charcoal. It was a readily available fuel source.
Yeah, with the big
Yeah, with the big bellows. I actually have a small bellows. What do they call that kind of bellows? Greg, you're the history guy. What do they call the bladder chamber bellows? All right. All right.
Whoa.
Let's get her over here.
Oh, that cooled down.
Let's dress that up real good. What I'm trying to go for is a nice rounded tip, because that's one that actually scrolls the prettiest. Ah, missed.
Oh no.
Yeah. You see how I was able to get it thinner and more broad out like that?
Yeah.
So, pull it over the side here, get it going in the direction I want it to. That looks pretty good. Here, we'll turn it over. So I was watching a fella named Roy. He's got a channel called Christ-Centered Ironworks, and he's got 2 different videos on doing this. An older one that talks about specifically about keeping things rounded at the front because it makes for a more graceful curve around, and then a newer one, which I think that's the one where I saw the trick where you flip it over and hit it from the back and let the face do the planishing in of all the hammer marks. But you can see we've got a, that's much better than the old one. Where did I put the old one? Is that over here? Yeah, much better than the old one. Number one, it has the shape better, and that's all because because of the fact that I made a taper to begin with. So I'm going to bring it up to the camera so the camera can see that
You can see the heat waves off of it.
it's got a taper in this direction. Can you see it on the camera?
Yeah.
And comes out with a really pretty fishtail. Yeah, you can see the heat waves coming off of it. But now all I have to do is clean it up a little bit and I can scroll that. But I think I'm going to hold off on the scrolling of that so that I don't, cause it to get misformed as I'm pushing it back in and forth into the fire going forward.
Okay.
And I definitely don't want to go any thinner than that. That edge can burn faster than any of the rest of it because it can take up the heat faster. When you're heating up metal, it's just like anything else. It's outside in, but you need the middle to actually get warmed up too. Otherwise, the outside will just cool and the inside won't move. And you need it to all kind of move together. Otherwise, you have things. It doesn't. The metal doesn't move the way it needs to move. Fortunately, the color on the outside typically reflects the color on the inside. You can't really make an outside color versus an inside color. So, but yeah, that's what I was going for. Much better. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in there, and I'll dress the edges so that it's more of a. I don't like the bump that's here that was caused by me mishitting, but I can dress that in. I'll use the horn on that to keep things where I want it.
We still haven't seen you use the horn.
Yeah, the horn has limited purpose. Good purpose, but limited. The horn is good for spreading metal this way. Whatever you put across it this way, that's the way it'll spread across it when you hit it straight flat with the face of the hammer. And maybe I'll turn that into a hook and just show you how that works. There we go. Don't go too much. You don't have to go that fast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't have to give your arm a workout. There comes a point where all you're doing is burning the fuel faster. It doesn't get any hotter.
It doesn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there is a limit to how hot the fuel itself can get, and so then all you're doing is burning it faster. Or at least that's what my experience is. Somebody in the, that watches this video somewhere on YouTube or wherever that puts a comment in there that knows better than me, because I don't know anything, It's just stuff I've been watching and reading. And I haven't figured out what the right speed is, but I do know that too fast and you're just burning your fuel too faster than you need to. All right, let's take a look. We're getting there. We get the, I want to get some of that further back, so I'm going to go ahead and put it deeper in so that...
And what's the blue flame that's coming up?
Just different, so as I said, these are putting off gases, right? And a lot of the gases that aren't combustible are cooked off during the process of making charcoal. But the charcoal itself is principally carbon. That doesn't mean that there isn't something else in there. And then just depending on what the temperature is that the carbon itself is burning and whatever else is in there is what color of flame you'll end up getting. That's good enough to clean it up a bit. So yeah, what you're going to see is the other thing that it's good for here is I can use it to allow me to move metal without changing the shape of the bit that's curved over it. Whereas if I had it up here, it would try to push the metal back in on itself.
Right.
But because I'm actually able to lay it over it, I'm not pushing the metal back in on itself. And you can see now we have a nicer taper there. Yeah, that's better. Just take those corners off. I don't want corners anyway. Try not to hit my anvil. That looks pretty well dressed up. I like that. I think somebody's at my front gate. There are other people in the house who can get that.
Is it hitting it on these on the plates that came off?
Yeah.
Does that go into the...
It does, and leaves a pattern. It doesn't actually forge into the metal. You'd have to... It's rust. It's basically rust. So what you're seeing is instant rust. Okay, so that's what we refer to as forge scale. It's instant rust. Here, you can feel it yourself. And there's very limited use for this stuff. But one of the things it turns out that it is kind of useful for is if you get a hold of it and you grind it up, you can use it as, because it doesn't want to stick to the metal. It's already been de-stuck from the metal, right? Right? It's already bonded to oxygen instead of to other steel. So it works good as a punch lubricant, if you will. Makes it so the punch, if the punch gets hot, won't stick to the hot metal. So it makes it.
Spray it on the metal.
You basically would put it into whatever you're punching, the hole. So as you get so deep into the metal you're punching, and most of the stuff I do, I don't punch anything thick. But if like I was making an axe head or a hammer head, then you got a punch to put the handle through, right? You can use this stuff in the hole that you're punching as a way to make it so that the punch won't stick to the material. So
that's cool.
again, blacksmiths tried not to waste stuff because you know everything was limited resources whenever we first started all this stuff. So we'll pick up what I dropped. Are we just making angry pixies? Do we need more coal or are we good?
It looks pretty good.
Okay.
Will you be trying forge weld anytime soon?
I'm thinking, it depends on how this part goes, but I'm thinking of putting a spike on this end, obviously. This is the end that'll be the spiky part. And forging a section of this square, and then bend it back over on itself. I got to do the mental calculations as to how much bending is involved, so that it comes back on itself, bends straight back out, comes out this far, bends again, goes this far, and that's my point that I made. And then forge weld this to be the other spike.
Awesome.
So yes, that's going to be the idea.
Okay. Yeah, we would love to see that.
You can see the holes down there. And what ends up happening is, yeah, we need more coals. If the coals get too small, they end up clogging up the
Is that good?
go ahead and put one more handful on there. Yeah, don't use too small because otherwise it'll clog up those holes and we won't be able to get any air through. Good, good. That's good. Okay. Would you grab me the tan glove there, please? Yeah, that'll do. Two.
Oh yeah, that definitely has some more air.
Actually, it pushed the air more forward.
Oh. Yeah, dude, it's getting pretty hot now.
Yeah. Thank you. Like I said, all metal's hot. That's where the air's coming through. That is called a dialectweer, and I'll show it to you when we're done. But what it is it's a pipe inside of a pipe. Now, the pipe that it's in has holes all the way to the back, certain distance apart, like 2 inches apart or 1.5 inches apart, and it has holes routed around another pipe on the inside. So like the number one hole goes almost all the way around. The number 2 hole goes most of the way around. The number 3 hole goes a little less far around. The number 4 hole, and so therefore as you turn it, you're opening up more and more holes for it to actually blow the air through. The tweer is what the pipe is called that the air comes through for any blacksmithing forge. T-U-Y-E-R-E. Freaking French people. Oh yeah, look at that, see? Now I can finish up what I'm doing here. T-U-Y-E-R-E. Oh, see how pretty that's coming now? It's already trying to roll over too. You see it?
Yeah.
So I'll probably take advantage of that and just roll it all the way around that way. But I think right now, just to be... I think that's all we needed to do here, to be honest. All I was wanting to do was sharpen all that up so that it actually gives that really nice fishtail look. And then we'll scroll it over.
So when you roll it over, are you going to roll over the majority of this end, or just the...
It'll be just, what'll end up happening is just this will be scrolled all the way back to this, basically. But it'll be, I'll actually show it to you on a video. All right. Throw that there. Let's see how clean my forging was.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
That actually does look pretty good. I could do a little bit more cleaning of the hammer marks that are there. You can see them there?
Yeah.
But I think I'll leave that till next time. Can you see the hammer marks on this side? Not bad. Not bad for a guy who doesn't blacksmith for a trade or something. For a guy who pays the bills with his typing on a keyboard. All right. We will set that aside, and we will do so by doing this so that we signify to anybody who might be thinking about it, the dang thing is hot. Don't touch. All right, now I'll show you what the horn's for. What did I do with it? What did I do with it? Ah. Now, you know what? I have to say, number one, sometimes my brain annoys me because that was right there and I didn't even notice it. But you know what I love? Is this anvil is heavy enough now that it doesn't move when I strike it. Otherwise this would have bounced right off of it. With that one over there, it would have bounced right off of it.
This one?
Yep.
Oh, because it was just sitting there while you were doing all your work.
Exactly. And I didn't notice it. So let's grab this. Use the last of the charcoal here to, yeah, that'll work. It'll come up to temperature again in a little bit here. We definitely got enough air. The angry pixies are jumping. Yeah, we need to get you guys a pair of safety glasses. I'm wearing mine, so.
We got a couple at the house.
Yeah, if you're going to be standing by the forge, I suspect you need, because unlike mine, where I was at a bellows that was this far back, okay? I wasn't standing right at the fire. We definitely need to get you guys wearing safety glasses, because something could pop up and catch you in the eye, and that wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
Greg said that blue is a hotter flame.
Oh, okay.
Yep, convection waves were what you were seeing at the end of the fishtail when I had it out there. You saw the heat coming off of it, convection waves. 20th century, yeah, that's what this is. It's a hand crank barrel blower. Well, see, the thing is, that would be, I would think you would be saying that it's a European antique bellows. It's a double-chambered bellows, is the one I was using, and the one I have is just a hand bellows. But the hand bellows was actually just for getting cook fires going. Just like you can when I'm starting these things up to begin with. You know, you start with, yeah, it doesn't fit. I have to make new ones. Yep. You would start with tinder, kindling, you know, and stuff like that. But if you wanted to make it easier to get things going, you just use some hand bellows when it's at the kindling phase to get it to really catch on. Because you might not have a nice fire pit that has a bottom, you know, air feed, right? You're just sitting at a campfire style situation. You could use those air bellows. Or you could have an oven where you're doing it, and there's not really much in the way of airflow to the oven, right? You get a section above where you've got the heat where you cook your food, but below that, oftentimes terracotta or stone floor is where the fire goes, and you need to get air down in there, and you would use a hand bellows to get things going. So, all right, let's take a look and see if we burned it up. I don't think we did, and that's good. Okay, so we got a lot of heat up front here. Oh, remember I said that the thin stuff likes to get hot faster?
Yes.
Yep. So let's get it out of the air and pull some of this forward. We're only just needing to get it hot enough to demonstrate. The hand bellows, 19th century. Got it. Yeah, I was going to one of the other antique style of bellows I was thinking about making. I was telling you guys about this before. Was a box bellows, which has two chambers. A chamber where you know, the bellows plate itself rides on top of and has you know, flaps to allow airflow in and out of, and then the main chamber that the air comes into to be pushed through the secondary chamber out the tweer. That's the hole where the pipe goes to the forge. And I thought about making one of those, but when I saw that this forge was available to be purchased and that it came with a crank bellow, you know, a rotary bellow, I went ahead with that.
Yeah.
All right, so let me show you what this is good for. If you start here, what you're going to see is it hasn't moved this way at all. Okay, the width has not gotten any wider, but it's gotten thinner and longer. And the further over the cone you go, the more aggressively it'll do that.
Really?
Now, if you want to get really aggressive about it, you come in here and you do it over the corner. But there's a lot more cleanup work to be done when you do it over the corner. because see the dents?
Uh-huh.
Now I got to go and flatten those dents out. But in doing that, it didn't really go sideways a whole lot. It did a little. You can see it did a little. But it gets longer as you do this. So if you don't want to have those dents, now there are times where I find the dent, you know, I need it to be coming faster. And you can do it like that, and I can use the corner of my, so I get 2 for 1. I can get 2 for 1 over here too, same way. But this side, you know, again, this was Roy is the one that suggested that this is a better way to go. It does a lot nicer job of doing the spreading and the cleanup simultaneously, in my experience. Whereas this one, when you do it over the radiused corner, you have to do a lot more cleanup effort.
Right.
So we'll go ahead and finish. I'm going to go ahead and shape it in the opposite direction just to get the length out of it I want.
Why does your light flash?
Because it's almost dead. It's battery light. Has it been doing that for a while and I just didn't notice?
Yeah. So is that power bank? Do you have to charge that power bank?
Yep. But I've been using it all morning. Well, for a couple hours now, a few hours now. And we're almost to the, yeah, we're supposed to wrap already. I don't know why I didn't get my notification. But we've only used 87% of it.
Oh, cool.
So. What was I getting in here? Now I've forgotten why I was going that way. I'll remember in a minute, and then I'll do it.
You said you were going to finish.
Yeah, I'm just going to tapering, yeah. Come on. So I was saying in my last stream that nobody saw that everybody talks about having to have good hammer control to be a blacksmith, and they're not wrong. But what they don't talk about is needing to have good tongue control. Because I find a lot of times the hardest part is getting the tongs to behave. I'm just gonna.
You gotta squeeze real hard, huh?
Yeah, well there's that. There's also just, you got to be able to manipulate the tongs without loosening what you're doing with the tongs. So. They just don't talk about tong control. They're always talking about hammer control. And I'm like, if you're a man my age, you probably already got hammer control or you were never going to have hammer control because you've probably hit a nail or two in your life. We're just going to use up the rest of this coal and call it done. We're almost to the point where we don't have coal anymore, we just have ash. That's the pixies. For what it's worth, that hood is hot too. All right, let's keep that there. I'll get in there in a second. Okay. Now let's see if I can show you what I meant about. See, I can get them back down again, but how much more work that was. And now I got to push it back this way again. Whereas if I were to do it from here, it would have done the drawing that way and kind of smoothed it while it's at, because it has a radius, right? And that's what makes it so you can spread something. That's why when you want to spread to the side, you use this side.
Oh, because it pushes it.
Because it pushes the metal in, these two directions. If you want to go in all directions, you use this side, because you can see it's kind of radiused in both directions, all directions, right? If you want to do some severe radiusing, you can use the corners of the hammer. If you want to pull metal, you can use, the heel, or push metal, you could use the toe. And, those are less commonly seen techniques, but they are possible, right? But that's why hammer control comes in, because you need to strike pretty, consistently, face to level to the face of the anvil. Because if you don't, you're going to get weird hammer marks, right? So, and I need to address this hammer. This hammer doesn't have quite the radiuses I'd like to have on the edges. They're close, but I'd like to have them closer to like this radius. So,
what material is that? It's so shiny.
It's probably some steel that with a high amount of chromium in it.
Oh.
And the reason for that isn't to be shiny, it's to be hard. Because you want your hammers to have hardened faces. You don't want it so hard as to, chip the surface of your anvil, or if you're using it on tooling, like struck tooling, like the punches, drifts, chisels, you don't want it so hard that it it could crack, because that's another problem with hardness. So if you watch Forged in Fire, you hear them talking about tempering the knife. That's because they want it hard to hold an edge. But if it's too hard, any of the stress that they put into the metal can result in the metal cracking and the blade failing catastrophically. You've seen it, where a blade has failed catastrophically, because it happens on there often enough. And that's what we're talking about. Is you want your metal to be hardenable in the case of tools, specific kind of tools, struck tools, but you don't want it so hard as to chip and break. The same is true on your anvil. The same is true for your hammers. You want your hammers to be hard, otherwise it won't move metal very well. But you don't want it to be so hard as to, you do a strike at one point and it just cracks in half. Yeah, we're almost to the no fuel left, and that's good. That's where I want to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. In my mechanics and materials class,
Yeah.
that's exactly what you were saying. How the harder it gets more brittle.
Yep.
The softer it is, it's just not.
And in this case, I'm sure they've got chromium in there because it lends that hardness, and it results in a chrome finish. But it doesn't stay, as you can see, it doesn't mean it's stainless steel. It doesn't end up not rusting. I need to give it if I do this, where'd I put it? There we go. If I do this, then this is less of a thing. But frankly, I mean, it comes off really easily probably because of the chromium level in there.
Yep.
But now I've got a non-shiny surface, It doesn't matter, not at all.
Why do you spray WD-40?
Because it'll prevent rust.
Oh.
If you pay attention to when we oftentimes use WD-40, it's marketed as a what is the name of, what is it they call it? I can't think of the word. but it'll break down rust. You see how it just did that? All I had to do is spray it on and rub it instead of having to break out the, and it just breaks down the rust. But it also lubricates it. It'll prevent oxygen from getting there, so you don't end up with as much of it. Oh, that wasn't even rust. That was dirt. It'll also make dirt come off. So you will probably remember us using it when we were trying to take the gate off, and my bicep gave way.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So.
Well, Jack, it's pretty much just yellow.
Yep, I think we're done. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it out. Although yellow's not a bad color. Let's just see if we can finish it.
Mini flame now.
Yeah. But we've got a good color. That's a good color. We can move metal with that. And we'll go over here. That end will want to snap off if I'm unlucky, because it's stress. I'm causing stresses in that when I do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay it in the fire. I'll work it from this side for a minute. I'm going to lay it in the fire just to let it, quote, normalize, which means the whole thing comes to a similar temperature, and then it'll cool, and then that'll result in you know, the molecules of the metal not being so stressed. I'm gonna grab it with the corners. There we go. Tong control, remember? But you can start to see stress fractures in there. This probably will not live.
Oh, no.
You see them in there?
Oh yeah, they're right there.
It probably will fall right off during its next heat. But we'll call that done. But you can see what it, you know, that's now longer than it had been. I've also gotten it squared up, which is useful to me because if you want to put twists in anything, you know, decorative twists, you really can't get the feel for that twist in round stock, because you turn something in a circle that's already round, you don't see that, right? So you want something with a direct decorative twist, you got to get something squared up or faceted in some way, and then you can see those twists.
How exactly do you get the two tongs and?
That's why I took this crescent wrench and welded on a piece of steel. You just go around the piece of metal you want to twist and give it a twist.
Oh, awesome.
So I can show you that next time. I'm just going to go ahead and lay this in there. We don't have to blow any more heat at it.
Okay.
Lay it in there. It'll come up to a temperature, but no temperature I'm really worried about. We'll see if it's rescuable. Otherwise, the mounting plate is useless. And that's not a big deal either, because I can still turn that into something. Just not necessarily the mounting plate. So that's going to be the end. Greg, thanks for hanging in there with me. That was awesome. Rust converters are chemical solutions or primers that can be applied directly to an iron or iron alloy surface to convert iron oxides, rust, into a protective chemical barrier. These compounds interact with iron oxides, especially iron 3 oxide, converting them into an adherent black layer. Yeah, I don't have that. WD-40 though, a lot of people think of it as a lubricant, and that's what I was using, and it's not really a lubricant. It is it gets into things, and I can't remember what that means, or what that word is, but it gets into things. I mean, if you ever watch, you can actually see it with a nut and a screw. And what you'll see is if you spray at the one side of the nut on a screw, or a bolt, I should say, because screws don't have nuts. If you spray on the one side of the bolt, you know, above the nut, and just wait, it won't drip over the nut if you make sure not to put too much on. It won't drip over the nut. It'll drip between the threads of the screw and the nut.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what WD-40 is really known for. Plus, it has the ability to break down and move out the dirt and the rust and things like that. So it doesn't become the protective barrier, unfortunately, like he's suggesting. The best known one of those that I know of is gun blue.
I don't know.
Gun blue is, okay, if you ever seen a gun, what color are they typically?
Black.
Right. They call it bluing. I don't know why, but they call it bluing. And guns are made of steel, okay? Fire irons, if you've ever heard of, you know, cowboy talk.
No.
But you're seeing them and they're black. Why is that? Well, it's because you end up using this material he's talking about to you rub on the steel, and it creates that protective coating so that your gun doesn't rust.
Oh, I thought it was always just paint.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. And if you see a shiny gun, it's because it's been chrome plated.
Okay. Yeah.
Rust converter, there you go.
Okay.
Resistant to moisture and protects the surface from further corrosion. They are sometimes referred to as rust remover or rust killer. Oh, I didn't get that far down. All right, let me cool this off because, yeah, you can feel it just barely hover your hand over it. But that is hot. Now we just hear how much hot. Ah, it's not too bad. It didn't go sizzle.
No.
I've had it go sizzle. Well, Greg, thank you for hanging out and helping me troubleshoot this. Identifying that I had to do some work with the camera. I have a battery in there now. I will be testing it later with just having the USB on it as well, just so I don't have to ever worry about changing the battery. The biggest problem I'm having with all the idea of testing is the only way I know how to really test this end to end is to go ahead and just go live randomly. And I've been trying to avoid doing that, but I think I might just use Twitch as my go live randomly mechanism. And that way I'm not polluting YouTube, my YouTube channel with videos. So I'm going to call that a wrap. And everybody have a great weekend.
And that ended the...
And then I just go over here and really say, good night all.